Hey guys, it's Mathil here once again, and I do want to give you an update on how my starter, the Spectral Throw Deadeye early Buzzsaw character, has been doing at the start of Sentinel League. Now to begin with, at like level 7 or some shit, I did find a tabula from one of the Sentinel, like, just, unique drops or some shit. So playing Spectral Throw did make it, a bit more comfortable, given that I could have access to a 6-link whenever I wanted. But that said, it was during the kind of overtuned rare phase of the game. The first day, I think it was almost entirely the first day, the rares were pretty out of whack and they were fairly tough. I mean, I still got through everything, and Spectral Throw from level 1 to 70 was okay, but it wasn't, anything special for a starter. Helix probably would have been better, but given that I had a tabula, I thought I could easily justify Spectral Throwing all the way, and by the end of the day, when the rares got nerfed, and then the next day, rares got nerfed again, the game started to feel pretty much like normal again, and, most rares have like 1 or 2 mods, and for the most part, you just got to kind of learn a few little things that you got to get, away from or play around, and then the game feels pretty normal. The character itself isn't the greatest starter because you do kind of benefit largely from gear, but I've done okay and I've had enough fun with it thus far. It's been pretty cheap. I've probably put like, I don't know, 50C into the character total, and I'm at 1 to 2 million DPS with Trinity, and just damage coming from an added cold gem, a wrath gem, an anger gem, which I'm using with Divine Blessing, so it's not going to be up all of the time, only whenever I press it, because I really wanted to fit Grace or Purity of Elements into the build, and at the moment it is Grace, just so I can stand still a bit more and dodge shit, evade shit, and then otherwise the rest of the damage is coming from the Claw. So it's been okay so far. I do think probably even on the low end, a cold dex Claw is going to perform better, because it lets you really just tunnel all of your efforts into one direction, which is cold damage, whereas here we are kind of spread between a few, and it means getting things like elemental penetration just a little bit harder, given that I have to use Trinity, some exposure stuff, which is why I've got a Winter Orb in the build right now, and that's not always going to be up, since you kind of have to set it up on certain enemies. And as you can see, my strategy for Sentinel right now is basically just use the blue one, and that is mostly to open a shrine, or get near a shrine, open a chest, and then pop my blue Sentinel. Otherwise, the red Sentinel does okay as well, but it's really only if your character can kind of handle it at the time, because the red Sentinel does feel kind of, well, it makes things tougher for a decent amount of time. With the blue one, it just makes a whole bunch of shit tougher at once, and then you kind of kill it and move on and get pretty rewarded for it. But there's plenty of tough content out there at the moment. Like, Metamorphs are kind of fucked with Arch Nemesis, but it's kind of a build your own Arch Nemesis, and sometimes you can easily avoid it, but you'd rather not, just because extra piece of loot, and it's going to be way harder. Ritual is fairly tough, but this is post-nerf, so it's not that bad. Doing the rituals before the nerfs was kind of just super dumb, and in general, a lot of the game with all the Arch Nemesis, a lot of the League mechanics were just stupid, and it's pretty good that they got nerfed here or there. Some things are still kind of dumb, and yeah, look, there's probably going to be a few more changes given the outcries at the moment, but I think the game is playable right now, especially if you've got a nice build and you take use of some of the new stuff out there in the form of recombinators. Some people have been doing some really big things with them. This is just a very small example of what I did to craft my Claw just at the end of yesterday, and it can be pretty OP. So you can take either 2 really nice items, smash them together, make an even better item. You can take fractured items and make double fractured items if you hit the right things, or you can just get a decent usable item. But there's going to be a lot of really good recombinator loot out there, and given that they're still honestly very cheap and accessible, then they're probably the way forward for upgrading a lot of your gear to the highest end at the moment. I've barely done any, just made that Claw, and still slowly progressing my character through low to mid tier maps, because I don't know, I don't try and zoom my way through anything and take my time. So as I'm putting out this video, I'm going to start the stream and probably get from like mid yellows into red tiers and try and min-max a bit more of my character's gear. It's going well enough. I do think I should be able to take on some bosses and all of that, and honestly I think some of the Sentinel plus Arch Nemesis is worse and going to be harder than some of these other bosses at the moment. I doubt I'm going to be doing any uber stuff, but we'll see how much more the character progresses and if I feel like going into the dex stacking mode, which should yield way more damage. But for now, let me show you how the character's going and how I've built it thus far. So here's the character so far, level 89 Sentinel at home, which was the cosplay. Check my Twitter or Instagram, I suppose, if you haven't seen that for some reason. Level 89 Deadeye. So basically, as I was showing off in the starter video, it's basically what I followed. I did make, I think, just a couple little changes in that I went for these mark nodes just for culling strike instead of the increased damage. It's the same thing, 4 points as opposed to 4 points, but I just kind of like the little mark effect node and then the cull just a little more against, you know, some content. Otherwise, still the same thing for frenzies. And I've also picked up these accuracy nodes because my accuracy's been a bit low, thanks to my gear and all that, and then also the precision, just so I can fit in more precision. At the moment I don't really need the precision master, I don't think, and I could get away with doing accuracy by something else, but for now this is still what I'm doing. Otherwise it's the starter build as it was supposed to be, and just started off by kind of filling out these little nodes here and then going up and getting the claw nodes, then just going up, filling out charisma, and then going up for those. And I was running wrath and anger most of the time, and then once I started getting through to like low tier maps, I did put on grace instead of anger full time, and then started running anger on a divine blessing, just so I could have a bunch more evasion and actually feel a bit tankier on the character. So divine blessing just turns your anger or whatever aura into a buff randomly, and you know, it's kind of a dog shit playstyle for all kinds of mapping, so you generally only really want to press it during some tougher events like a boss fight or, you know, big essence mob, some shit like that. But you know, if you can be bothered pressing it all the time, then you can do that too. Otherwise, nothing really special going on. I just then showed you the claw that I made, which is still in need of a bit of work, but it's just a couple of early damage rolls and then a crit roll, which has helped my crit out a lot. Up till now I had about 70 crit maybe, now I should have about 80-ish, 85, something like that. And it does feel kind of shit until you get better crit, because for a lot of the character I had about 50 crit, and that means that, you know, every second Spectral Throw you're throwing out isn't really going to be doing much damage or like killing just regular packs of enemies. So getting your crit up is pretty important, and a lot of that comes from the weapon and also from a chest, whereas currently all I've got is a rat cage because it was 15C for a 6 link, so it's an easy upgrade over Tabula. I take a bit more fire damage, I got a bunch more life and evasion, but ultimately we do want to upgrade into like either an influence chest or just a chest with some extra influence modifiers from Eldritch stuff, but for now this is what I've got. And a crit chest would be quite a big upgrade just for you know, filling out the character's smoothness. But yeah, 15C, whatever, easy 6 link, that's what I've got right now. And my links at the moment are Spectral Throw, Nightblade, Trinity, and Added Cold. I think that's our staple 4 link. So if you're wondering what to do for a 4 link, that's basically what I did for most of it. And then you incorporate things like Inspiration, and I had added Lightning for a while, but now that I've got other sources of damage like Wrath and Anger, early damage with attacks is the next one. Otherwise, everything's pretty goddamn basic. Got some Temple Gloves with Shock pretty recently, and they've got some attack speed, and then just started to put some various implicits on them. I'll probably get rid of that exposure thing because, you know, we're using a Hydrosphere at the moment. Just grab some boots with some suppress, tried to cap my suppress through my shield and the passive tree, and then got a Star Conjures, but we do want a Helm Enchant, so I'll see what I can do about that. Ideally, I think Snipers mark Helm Enchant, but it doesn't really matter between that or Spectral Throw damage or I don't know, maybe some other shit, maybe some reservation if you want to fit more stuff in or not have to take a few points. And then just picked up an amulet and rolled it to the best that I could for now. And you do need some good int and strength on the build to be able to, you know, add gems leveled up. As well as that, I did grab a temple ring just for some mana. Otherwise, you know, if you got the Elrion craft for minus mana cost, you can do that too. But just one minus mana craft somewhere does feel pretty good for your Spectral Throw to be able to consistently start throwing them out, because you really like to pre-fire in this build. I'm still using a mana flask at the moment, but I'll probably get rid of that. Maybe grab a Dying Sun, because in the starter thing I did suggest to go for a cluster with a additional thing. Projectile. That was assuming that you couldn't get a Dying Sun early on. I don't think they're very expensive right now, so if you can get one of those, then probably a bit nicer. We're going to really need it for clear anyway. Otherwise, you know, it doesn't really matter having those extra proj. So it's kind of situational. For clear, Dying Sun would be pretty good anyway. Otherwise, you can still do a cluster, you know, if you make one that's worth using. For the actual Ascendancy, I don't think it really matters how you do this, but I did go Far Shot into the 2 proj so I could stop using LMP. And then into the focal point. Getting focal point did feel kind of like a game changer though, because that's when just Sniper's Mark feels way better for single target, and as well as that, the transfer happens and things deal less damage around it. And then of course, Gathering Winds makes you quite zoomier. You could go in any direction for the Ascendancy order, it doesn't really matter. And I was self-casting my mark for a lot of my character's playthrough, but ultimately I do think attaching it to mark on hit makes your gameplay a bit smoother. Still in the end game, we might get rid of mark on hit and just do my own application against bosses and all of that, because it is a reduced effect, and at the same time you want to have control, whereas this has a 4-second timer and you know, can not hit the right mob that you're attacking, that sort of thing. So it's attached to Life Tap and Mark on Hit at the moment, and otherwise there's not much else to mention. Hydrosphere, Tornado, Power Charge on Crit, use it occasionally. Life Tap, Anger, Divine Blessing, got a Wrath over here, Flame Dash there, Grace, Precision, Withering Step, Whirling Blades, Faster Attacks, and Ancestral Protector. Still plenty of upgrades to make. At the moment, the POB will tell me that I've got about 1.5 million DPS, and then Sniper's Mark is going to create more of an overlap. So it's maybe, yeah, I don't know, 2 to 3 million at the moment. No real way of knowing. And just playing for another day or another day or two, upgrading a couple of pieces here or there, and min-maxing the character in the form of like gem levels and gem qualities and shit like that will take me to probably about 2.5 million, maybe even 3 million. So that's without having to upgrade or move on into anything like Cold Deck Stack, but that might still be the end game plan. I'll have to wait and see. So far it's gone well though, and from what I've heard, it's gone well enough for other people. It's not the strongest starter ever, because I think it is fairly gear reliant to go to the, you know, real good levels, but it's strong enough for what it is, and it is Spectral Throw, which is pretty fun. As far as the league mechanic is concerned, like I said, I am using mostly the blue stuff. I did do a lot of the rare one, and honestly didn't feel that rewarding, and did make most, you know, bosses and shit just more challenging without really feeling that much better. So I actually kicked that from my setup and then spec'd into more rewards, and then just trying to focus more on the blue one, which is just surrounded by a bunch of enemies and then use it, as well as that, the red one, which just chases you or goes in front of you and empowers some shit. So that's currently what I'm doing with those. Nothing, no real strategy, nothing too special. There was one interesting one I was using. I don't know where I actually put it at the moment. Let me see if I can find, yeah, there it is. So I got one unique one, and it's been interesting. So I already depleted it, I used it, but 23% chance to upgrade your normal enemies when you do the blue Sentinel into rares when they're empowered. So if it zaps 100 enemies, there's going to be 23, you know, on average rares. And it got pretty intense at times, but this is already after the nerf. So considering they designed this with Arch Nemesis the way it was on launch and pre-nerf, with like all those juiced as fuck Arch Nemesis with like, you know, 2 to 5 mods or some shit, I don't know what the fuck they were thinking, man. That's just slaughter. So it would have been hilarious to see. I never got to, because, you know, post-nerf, but at the same time, I really don't know what the hell they were planning with that one. And in general, I suppose, with the way Arch Nemesis launched, it was very much a yeah, sort of a test on how much punishment we could take, and if it needs to be scaled back. It was pretty brutal, but you know, I got through it, and it wasn't the end of the world. But I do definitely feel bad for newer people who were like maybe trying the game or coming back after a while and just going, "What the fuck is this shit?" It's been changed, and I do honestly think that the game's come back to pretty much pre-Arch Nemesis state, where it's a little bit different, but you should feel fairly powerful once again in maps and all of that. To begin with, though, it was fairly rough. No denying that one. So that's the character. Spectral Throw, still going pretty well, and still going to play it for maybe another day or two, as long as things keep progressing and I'm still having fun. Hope you guys are doing good too. And if you want to know, for reference, my kills, 115,000. So, and the playtime, 1 day, 1 hour. There it is. Shit, actually, yeah, Atlas strategy as well. Nothing special, just gone for, you know, essences, because I didn't do that last league. I've blocked Legion and Abyss. I would probably block Blight, maybe Metamorph, maybe Delirium, but still think I should engage with all of this content at the moment, so I am, even if I don't want to. And then I wanted to do Expedition, so we're at Expedition over there, and Shrines, because Shrines feel pretty good in mapping. Doing more Expeditions. There we go. That's it. Okay. Hope you guys are having a good time in Sentinel League. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.